Hello, welcome or welcome back. This vlog has been a little bit in the making as I've been trying to kind of wrench my sanity back from my own bad habits. That sounds really dramatic, but over the past couple months, if you watch my videos, you've probably noticed the kind of slow decline of my mental health, and I am trying to work on that. And so we kind of started basically with a downturn, which I will get into a little bit more later because it's more relevant to my studying. So I just decided to go to the beach and read and just like not take things so seriously for a second. And then that kind of continued into the next day where I went to the bookstore, and I actually went with the intention just to browse, but for one thing, the attendant that's always at that bookstore is super nice. She always comes up and asks if you need help with anything, talks to you about like the book that you're looking at. She's always just super friendly, which for one thing is super uncommon here, and I don't have a problem with that at all, but that's like why I notice it. So not that I bought something just because she was nice, but I was kind of like, oh, I wish I was like buying something. And then I was like, actually, like I have been saving money so aggressively over the past couple months. I could just buy something. Like I could use that kind of like little spark. Not that you always should be buying things to like motivate yourself, but I've been trying to work on my relationship with Spanish as I've like been studying more and having a lot more baggage on that relationship with living in a Spanish speaking country, and therefore having like negative experiences with speaking Spanish. Like it's just a natural consequence of that. So anyway, I bought this book. You would think that like I was choosing a life partner or something with how long I stood in the store, like picking books up, setting them back down, looking up reviews. But ultimately, this is a book that's on my 25 in 25 list for this year. It's a book that I've wanted to read for a long time. They do have it on Kobo, obviously, for sale, but it's like $8, and the paperback was like 14 euros. So not a huge difference, and I always keep an eye out, and it's never gone on sale on Kobo. So I don't know, it just feels like, a fat classic of Spanish literature just feels like it should be read physically, It's got that good paper feel, and I love this size. Most Spanish books are significantly bigger, and I hate that size. So yeah, anyway, I bought this. I'm excited to read it. I do think I want to finish rereading Babel first because that is also a chunker of like 600 pages. It makes sense to finish that first, but very excited to read this. It is about I think the end of the Spanish Civil War, the beginning of the Franco dictatorship, and that is something I really know very little about, and I feel like I should know about it, living here and speaking Spanish and everything. So we had that, worked this week, didn't really do too much this week. Kind of still fell into my endless scrolling doom pit of despair. And so yesterday I was like, okay, that's it. Like, I'm done with this. I'm so sick of living this way. And so I fully deleted Instagram off my phone. I previously was like periodically offloading it off my phone so that like when I downloaded it, I still had my accounts and stuff logged in. But unfortunately, the app still like suggests itself to you when it's offloaded. And so I would constantly find myself clicking on it, and then it would re-download. And so now it is fully deleted, so I can check it on my computer or my iPad. I want to just check it, post, check in with people that I actually know and communicate with on Instagram. Like, if you ever want to message me on Instagram, I love that. Like, that is the reason why I do this, why I have that platform. Like, I love talking to people on there, and I like making my little silly stories where I talk about everything all the time. But I have got to stop scrolling. So in addition to that, I'm like, I can't remember where I was listening to someone talk about this recently, where they were talking about how you can't just decide not to do something, you have to replace it with something. You will still seek out that exact same kind of behavior, whether it's Instagram or not. Like, I could just start scrolling on Reddit instead, or whatever. So I'm going to wake up, and I've always been really bad about scrolling on Instagram as soon as I wake up. And I don't think that's necessarily the end of the world, but I don't want to have it on my phone anymore, and so I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to wake up and either read on Webtoon or do Spanish on Lingalia. Probably read Webtoon, because, like, who wants to wake up and immediately do Spanish exercises? But if for some reason I get the desire to do that, I can. When I get back from work, I want to start drawing again. I brought my drawing stuff with me instead of getting rid of it like I did almost everything else that I owned, because I wanted to pick that back up. I have not even opened my sketchbook since I got here. So there's that. There's obviously this month still prepping for the DELE is very important for me, but that will end after March. There's reading. After March, I'm going to start trying to do reading vlogs again. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. So on to the DELE studying updates. I was very uncertain and kind of unhappy with how my studying was going, specifically for the speaking. The writing is kind of so-so. The listening and reading has been going well. I usually get between like 21 and 25 out of 25 on practice tests, so I'm really not worried about those at all. Obviously, I still continue practicing them, but I am not concerned about them. The writing, I'm not like super concerned about, but obviously I do need to continue practicing it. The speaking, I kept freezing in like every time I practiced. And so I realized recently that I still had a gift card from like a Christmas ago, like not this Christmas, one before that I had no idea that I had not used on Italki. And so it was only enough for like maybe 3 lessons. But I was like, well, this is the perfect opportunity to find someone who does specialize in the DELE and take some really, really targeted lessons. So I found someone, I messaged them. We did the first lesson, and it was really, really beneficial. She sent practice problems to do beforehand for the writing and the speaking, so I obviously wrote the writing ones and uploaded them for her to see, and prepared for the speaking, because you get like 20 minutes of prep time for 2 speaking problems total, so like 10 minutes each, or however you want to split it up. I think that she was positive about the writing. Obviously there were things to improve, there were mistakes in there, but I think she was pretty much like, yeah, I mean, like, you could make this better for sure. But the speaking, she asked what I would have rated the first problem, which is the one that I struggle with the most, after I did it, and I said a 4 out of 10, and she was like, well, I don't know about that, but she did say she would have given me a 6, which like would be passing based on what I assume I will get on the listening. But yeah, she was very blunt, which I like appreciated, but also, you know, in my like fragile state was also, you know, hard to hear. Obviously I didn't completely blank, but I just really struggled, like really like, it was just very, very unpolished. After that, I really kind of fell into the pits of despair for a second. And after like a day of that, I was like, this is just not that serious. Like, why? What? I need you to get a grip. Like, it is just not that deep. And I think because this is like my day to day that I'm like living right now, of like Spanish being like so on the forefront of my mind, and like making mistakes at work and stuff, and like just endlessly like ruminating over, I think I like am putting this importance on this that it just doesn't have. And it's not the exam's fault. Like, I know some people do an exam and they like regret doing the exam. Like, they say like, this kind of ruined learning Spanish for me, and that was part of why I was always so reluctant to do it, because I didn't want to have that experience. But to be honest, when I signed up for the exam, I was already having that experience. Like, it was the using Spanish that was ruining my learning Spanish, not the exam. And the exam is like an attempt to fix that, like an attempt to reach a point at which using Spanish no longer ruins using Spanish. So anyway, I don't know if this is making any sense whatsoever, but I was like, I just need to like let it go. Like, just let it go. So I also decided, which is funny because it's like exactly the opposite of what the teacher told me to do, but I decided to start writing out my response completely, because you do only get 20 minutes for 2 questions. And so like, really, and that sounds kind of like a long time, but it's really not. And so you don't really have time to write out the whole response, and you also are absolutely not allowed to read it. Like, they will stop you if they think you are reading too much or looking at your paper too much. So people always say, like, don't write it all out because you can't read it. So when you're just glancing at it, you won't be able to see what you need to see. Like, you need to get a good outline. I can't do it. Like, I cannot get an outline for this specific type of problem. The second problem is okay because you are just not describing a photograph, you're coming up with a story based on a photograph. And so that one, like, you're being creative, the first one is such a like strict structure that every time I would make an outline, I couldn't remember what I wanted to say. I couldn't come up with things that made sense on the fly. Like, nothing about this was working. But if I do it really fast, I have time to write the whole thing in 15 minutes, and then I have 5 minutes to make an outline for the picture. And it was like instant, complete overturn in my result with practicing that problem. Like, because I have a really good memory for things that I have written down. And so once I have written it out, I don't have to read it. I can just like glance at it. Usually I will already kind of have a memory of what it was. So, I mean, obviously I will be super aware of not looking at it too much, but yeah, it is a world of difference once I have put those thoughts on paper once. Complete change. I have been doing one of those every day. Like, that was the other thing that I decided was just focus on one problem at a time and start with the worst problems. Really focus on those and then move on to another one. So I have done about 3 or 4 days now of that speaking problem, which was by far my worst problem. Like, the problem that I was like, I'm gonna fail just on this one. So I booked another lesson with that teacher in 2 weeks, a little bit less than 2 weeks. So hopefully things will go much better this time. And it's hard to explain to people how the nerves like just completely destroy your ability, because I kept making crazy mistakes. Not that I made them like non-stop, but like 3 or 4 times in the lesson I made like an A1, like Spanish 101 error that like literally I've never made that error in my life. So that's not very comforting. So that's where we're at. That was the big download of all of the things that have been going on for the past few weeks. We're gonna be doing better. That is my promise to myself. Hello. Sorry for the laundry noise. Okay, so I finished my studying for today, and well, at least, you know, what I had planned. And I also started going through the vocabulary. So the Cervantes Institute has lists, like a huge list of vocabulary that's expected at each level. So I've been going through that and looking up ones that I don't know or am not totally sure about, and putting those in a list on Spanish Dictionary. It's not ideal because phrases aren't always in Spanish Dictionary and you can't add custom things, but it's so easy. Like if I add these all manually on some site or app, it's just gonna be too much. So hopefully my camera's still working. It fell from, you know, like a 1.5 feet. I was just thinking the other day that I depend way too much on propping it up on random things. So I did the vocabulary, and then I've been planning out my continued practice for the rest of the time that I have left. Oh my god, I'm like losing my brain cells. I did this stupid thing where I was planning out each thing, and I was like, okay, I should have 5 days for each problem. And then I accidentally repeated a problem, and then I was like, why do I not have a space? Like, I feel like all of my brain cells are slowly just decomposing.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just...
So all of my like problems, the problems that I have the most issues with are the 3 speaking problems, there's 2 writing problems, and then there's 1 reading problem, which is grammar focused. I've already spent 4 or 5 days on the first speaking problem, but I'm going to spend a couple more days on that, then 5 days on the next 2 speaking problems. Then I will start the writing problems, and I will start reviewing the speaking problems. So like I'll do Escritura 1, but I'll have Oral 1, Oral 2, Oral 3, and then start over, and I'll be on Escritura 2. That should leave me a bunch of time at the end to go back and decide what I still need work on. I don't think I will actually do every single day, so I'm actually kind of enjoying working on this now. Like, of course, sometimes when I'm actually doing the practice, I'm like, oh my god, get me out of this hell. But in general, I'm kind of enjoying it. I forgot to get my laundry started early, so I either have to leave in the middle of the laundry, which I know you're not really supposed to do, or wait to go out today, but I really want to get Indian food, hopefully, and visit this Asian grocery store, which are not common here at all, so I have to go a little bit out of my way to get there, but I am very excited. I love Asian grocery stores in the US, and so I'm excited to see if it's the same here, if it's different. I'm very excited. So I'm gonna probably read and wait on my laundry, and then we will go do that. Hello, we're back. So that was an interesting trip. The Indian restaurant that I wanted to go to is now a pizza place. So that completely failed, obviously. And the Asian market was really cool. It was kind of busy, so I couldn't really film very much, but it was mostly like fancy things, which is obviously nice. Not like fancy, like elegant things, but like expensive things is what I'm trying to say. It was mostly expensive things, but it was really interesting to look at, and they did have some not expensive things. So the two kind of snacks that I got to try out are these matcha flavored Oreos. These are not great. They're not bad, but they don't taste like matcha. You know, they're fine. Things that are supposed to be like spicy, almost like Cheetos. And they're not spicy. Nothing in Spain is spicy, really. That is a common refrain that I have. So those are just fine. They taste like extra cheesy Cheetos with a little bit of extra warmth. These energy drinks were 10 cents cheaper than they are at the markets, like the little pop in and out markets, and so I got 3 of them. We have the wild blackberry flavor, apple and melon flavor, and watermelon and red grape flavor. These are one of the only energy drinks that I can drink here because they have sugar instead of artificial sweeteners, and I can't drink artificial sweeteners. But these are way cheaper than Red Bull or Monster, so when I want to treat myself to an unhealthy energy drink, these are what I gravitate toward. Then the cheap / essential things that I got. This matcha, 250 grams, was like some euros, 6.55 I think. And I was already impressed by how cheap the matcha is here. I've talked about it before in a video. There are these glass jars that are like 3 or 4 euros, but those have 55 grams. So this is like 4 or 5, between 4 and 5 of those jars for 6 some euros. So I am hoping that this is the same like flavor, quality. I don't see anything that would indicate it's not. It's not like mixed with anything else. It's just matcha. So once I finish what I already have, we'll try this. Thankfully, I have been keeping the jars. For some reason, I just was like, these could be useful. So I kept keeping the matcha jars so I can, once I open this, portion this out into jars. So I was excited to discover that. Then excited for these two. So this is crushed chilies. I have a little container of this, but I'm hoping these will be even spicier because this is extra hot. But again, once I finish that container, I can dump these in there. This is what I've been putting on absolutely everything to give it extra spice flavor. I put it on my pizzas, I put it in my pasta, I put it everywhere. And then these are dried chilies. I have some soy protein, like meat substitute dried things that I was going to try to make tacos with, but now I can simmer it with these and hopefully make some spicy vegan tacos, and I'm very excited about it. I was completely, I knew I was gonna miss it, but I was really unprepared for how much I was gonna miss spicy food, Mexican food, like good Mexican food. And I didn't even live in like a good Mexican food area. Like I didn't live in California or Texas or anything, but we still had good Mexican food. Like we had some food trucks, we had a couple of restaurants that were pretty good, and here it just does not hit the same, like at all. I've had some good tacos in Madrid, but here in Andalusia, so far, they've all been okay at best. So, but yeah, now I think I'm going to watch the new Severance episode with my partner virtually, and then we'll get back into Spanish things for the rest of the evening. Yeah. Hello, welcome back. So, it's been a couple days, I think, since I updated. I got busy, distracted with the week and having to actually do things. It's been a very successful slash non-traditional week because Monday I was supposed to have a doctor's appointment, and I made the doctor's appointment kind of far away because they were the only ones in like the insurance portal who allowed online scheduling. Should have known that that was a bad idea, but I forgot that it is Carnival in Cadiz right now. Well, it's Carnival lots of places, but there's a big celebration in Cadiz. And so it was crazy. The train was packed. Everybody was like in costume, you know, which is fine, but it made the whole thing take a lot longer and be a lot more overwhelming than it ordinarily would have been. And then the office was closed because of Carnival. I love Spain. I love living in Spain. I am not criticizing. However, this is an extremely typical Spanish experience. Like, especially, I don't know if it's different in other regions. I'm sure in like big cities it's a little bit less this way, I would think. But things are just like, inconvenience is not that important to people, you know? Like, I think in the US and to some extent just Anglophone countries in general, inconvenience is like the end of the world. Like, people hate it. And so like businesses and stuff really cater to not inconveniencing people, and that's just not the case here. So anyway, I got a new appointment, so that's tonight. I really managed to screw myself over. So I have my doctor's appointment at 6:30, and I need to go get cat litter urgently and a bunch of other stuff. So I'm just going to a big mall shopping center with my Senora rolling cart. I had one of these in the US too, and I love them. I did not know that these are like considered an old people thing here. Like, they think it's funny when not old people have them. I wouldn't need it just for groceries, but for cat litter, I'm not carrying like onto the bus, off of the bus. It's no. Hello, welcome. So it is now Thursday afternoon. I got back from work. It's my shortest day at work, so I still have a lot of day left. So I am headed for a nap here shortly, but I was planning out my day. So yesterday, I think I left you to grocery shop and go to the doctor, I think. Everything went fine, but it's like a very far out of town kind of shopping center. And so the bus that goes out there is like super unreliable because it's a kind of a long route, I think. I don't know, but regardless, it's super unreliable. And so I wasn't sure if I had just missed the bus or if it was just late. So I was waiting at the bus stop for like 45 minutes maybe. And when the bus got there, I get on the bus. I have like, you know, shopping bags, my rolling cart thing, and I'm like wrestling it all up there. And the bus driver asked me something like 3 times before I understood what he said, like internalized what he was saying. And he was asking me what time the bus was supposed to have been there based on the schedule at the stop. I was like, in my head, of course, like, shouldn't you know that? It was very, very funny. I still don't know whether he was 40 minutes late or 20 minutes early. I assume late, but actually he may not have known either, to be honest. So anyway, we did that, then went to the doctor. It was like pouring rain, so all of this was quite an adventure, but everything went great at the doctor. I was like not like super stressed out, but I was like, you know, moderately stressed, and it was totally fine. The check-in person was super, like, he asked for my insurance information, which is just online, and so I had it up on my phone, and I tried to like give him my phone, and he was like, no, I will ask you for a code later or whatever. And I was like, okay, you asked for this. But everything went fine. I need to do my practice problems, obviously. I want to review some vocabulary, and then I want to read and play my games. It's just going to be a very cozy afternoon. I have been toying with the idea of getting a Nintendo Switch. It's been roughly a month now that I've been playing games on my iPad. It has been so delightful and such a nice way to disconnect. Obviously, it's not really disconnecting because I'm still staring at a screen, but disconnect from stress, we'll say, and still, engage with languages and stuff. I thought that the Switch 2 was coming out in April, and so I was hoping that when that came out, the other ones, I would get it refurbished or used anyway. I was hoping that that price would still go down, but I think I misunderstood the announcement. I don't think it's coming out in April. I think they are coming out with more information in April, which, okay. So anyway, I only have another week left of Apple Arcade, so I need to test out these games because something that I'm working on is a cozy mobile gaming to learn Spanish guide, games at different levels that are good for Spanish exposure. Because I think obviously a lot of games really don't have very much dialogue. So anyway, that's what we're working on. Hello! I played Disney Dreamlight Valley for an hour or more. Really, really fun, interesting game. So I'm probably gonna keep playing that in the next couple days, but then I just had an absolutely horrific headache. Probably not helped by staring at the screen, but I drank a bunch of water because I think largely I'm dehydrated. I've been very bad about drinking water. I'm continuing to do that, but other than that, I didn't really do anything because I just wanted to go to sleep, but I couldn't go to sleep because my head was hurting. So, continuing to stare at the screen, I totally finished the webtoon that I'm reading, which is the first time I've ever caught up to a webtoon, other than ones that have 10 episodes. So I've been reading Everything is Fine, Todo está bien, for a year now, just off and on, and then ever since I, quit using Instagram on my phone, I have been reading it a lot. So yeah, I'm totally caught up, and the new season is supposed to be coming out soon, so I'm sure I won't be able to read it because I think you have to pay for new episodes. I'm not really sure how that works on Webtoon, but wild Webtoon. I am really liking it, but I do feel like the story is kind of dragging out, but we're kind of getting some new information now, so yeah. So yeah, that's probably about gonna wrap it up. Overall, I just wanted to update on the, not using Instagram as much. It has been a complete game changer. I still have things I want to work on as far as still staying up to date. I want to maybe do something where I set a timer for 10 minutes a day to read news or something like that. And I want to pick one or two issues to start being more proactive about. And that's something that I have done before. I did that particularly with Palestine in the past, and that's probably still going to continue being one of the ones. I need to be doing something, obviously, aside from kind of checking out for my own mental health. I cannot completely check out. That's I'm not in a position where that's ethical to do. So while I do not need to be spending hours scrolling because that doesn't do anything for anybody, I do need to actually be doing something. And then also, with webtoons and gaming and everything, that's all still time I'm sitting staring at a screen. So I want to go play basketball again, go running again, even if I don't end up training for a half marathon, even if I don't end up doing organized activities. I've been getting a lot of steps lately, so I don't feel too bad about the sedentary days, but I just still want to continue working on diversifying my activities, taking care of my mental health and physical health also. So that's the updates that I have. I'm probably going to close this out now and start a new vlog. So I will see you then.